is talking to another woman. What's your problem then? Not helping? Can be around the house, or it can be sometimes even with the person. The person is a student. So maybe you could be doing things to help the person. And one way of helping, which doesn't cost anything, is by finding some word or words of encouragement to lift up the person's spirits. Sometimes we don't take responsibility for poor behavior. And here's one that can really push on taking the barrier, not apologizing for mistreating a partner. Some can never do wrong. Maybe you don't belong to this earth. Perfect people, the Bible says, they are in heaven, not here on earth. Regardless of what we say about, I found a perfect man, or I found a perfect woman to marry. No, they're not here on earth. So we say, learn and do. Don't just learn. Don't just listen to us on the podcast. Don't just listen to others we've done, but put the principles into practice. And then review your relationship. How is it going? Since I started doing something different, is my relationship getting better? So let's review. Sometimes we don't do that. So yeah, I went to this is what pastor said, or this is what the counselor said. I don't see any problem. You have to review. Review means you see again, again, review, see. See into your relationship again. Consider it. Is it getting better? What is improving? What do we need to work on again? And we keep saying we because a relationship is about two people. It's never go and fix thyself and our relationship will be great. Whenever a couple take this attitude, or whenever one person decides that it's the other person who needs, to work on himself or herself, the relationship is already in serious trouble. Because who's going to determine that the other person is all right? That's the partner who thinks they are okay. But are they also willing to listen to the partner saying, I think you also need to work on this and that? If one person is perfect, there's trouble in the relationship. So this leads us, this is the thing. We need also to continue to do what is working for both partners, not what satisfies only one person. Both partners must be involved in bringing about the change. The relationship is about two people, not one person. Leads us to the fourth point, emotional baggage. Emotional baggage. Emotional baggage. This may arise from mistreatment that is harbored and then tolerated over around one person. For example, person any other person you talk to who's that? Why did you keep doing it? You're talking about a new partner. Just even the previous one. Children from a previous relationship can become a source of conflict in new relationships. Why do we say this? Because we are emotionally attached to our children. And sometimes that emotional attachment also tugs on the emotions we had toward the father. And so when the new father in their life, so to speak, isn't really relating to them well, where does your mind go? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the issues regarding discipline. Example, don't get my general example. No? Will you pray for you? I think it was emotional baggage can also come from emotional outlet, especially anger. Often sacrifice can be easy, but created hurt in a past relationship. Maybe the person used to tell you a certain word, used to certain medication. Then, this new relationship, the person is wondering, then it's neutral. You need that. Then it's neutral. But for you, no. And they have absolutely no idea why this is. When somebody doesn't get what you can't breathe. When somebody doesn't breathe, breathe. It's control. Let's be real. It's not love, it's control. If you can't have a certain level of trust, that's a problem. So we come to number 5, barrier. Spiritual warfare. So we talked about different 4 barriers so far. One, we said then or doing what can improve the relationship, and then emotional baggage. We have to check ourselves. What am I carrying from my previous relationship? Number 5 barrier. And they're not in. It is accepted in many cultures and countries around the world that marriage is both physical and spiritual. It is therefore common for couples to receive spiritual blessings. That also means there is the possibility that there may be both positive and negative spiritual influences on the marriage. When it comes to spiritual barriers, people have different reactions or responses or feelings toward things spiritual relating to marriage. There are those denying something or accept. Also, these are the 2 extremes. One, nothing spiritual. On the other end of the spectrum, there are those who spiritualize everything that goes wrong in their relationship. There's always some evil force, some evil person who's responsible or who is out for their relationship, and therefore they take no responsibility for their own mistakes or for their own misbehavior. That doesn't help. Because so long as you're thinking it's somebody else, together or worshiping together, each one does their thing. Let's focus on Christians, for example, just briefly. If your marriage is Christian, you must expect some attacks from Satan. His specialty is to attack anything that is set apart for the glory of God. Anything. The Christian couple must therefore recognize the moves of Satan to take advantage of their weaknesses. And therefore, instead of attacking each other, couples should learn to stand together. And as the Apostle Paul said, to put on the whole armor of God. Let's hear what he said. He wrote to the Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 12.
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Amen.
Amen. How can you fight that? Roaring lion. Remembering that in Christ we are more than conquerors. Yes. Easter gets back not long. In Christ, this is why in our work, for example, we encourage couples to learn to pray together and worship together based on Jesus' words in Matthew chapters 18, verses 18 and 19. Matthew 18, 18 and 19.
Matthew chapter 18, verses 18 and 19. Assuredly I say, whatever you bind will be bound in heaven. Whatever you lose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you, that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. Amen.
If two of you can agree, husband and wife are. I always say husband and wife are a very powerful father. And joined together by God, under God, we're made one. If you agree, make your mind together. That's a lot of have to agree. When couples enjoy the unity that God intended for marriage, as stated in Genesis 2:24, becoming one flesh, a couple needs to bond spiritually. So, what do we need to do? Ultimately, two partners. Psychologists must say that replacement couples will often become set in their ways of interacting with their partner, believing that they need to maintain their existing ways of relating to one another in order to survive. This static behavior, however, is not beneficial to any kind of marriage. In other words, we will continue doing what we have been doing. He says it's not beneficial to any kind of marriage. In any case, if you are unhappy, why will you continue doing what's making you unhappy? Some might think changing partners, as in divorce, talking about married people, will enable them to find a better partner or relationship. The statistics say otherwise. Statistics show that in the U.S., up to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. That increases up to the upper 60s for all second marriages, and up to almost 80% of third marriages. So if we marrying on doesn't really make you a perfect partner, it doesn't give you a better marriage relationship. So, what happens is that most people take same issues that led to the breakdown of their first marriage into the next, rather than learning how to create a lasting and loving relationship. So, friends, the difference between good and bad marriages does not lie in the presence or absence of difficulties. The difference hinges on the attitude of the couple to the challenges they face. Whether they stand together to deal with the issues confronting them, or instead fight each other, fall apart. Growth in a relationship is not automatic. As we said before, what is not growing is either dead or is dying. Therefore, it is important to take time to reflect on what areas are not improving in the way you expect or you would like. You plural. Find out what barriers to your relationship may need to be addressed for growth to happen. To do this, we suggest 3 key points. First, individually, identify what you think are the main barriers to your relationship. 2, come together as a couple to discuss your list and then agree on the top 5, maybe the top 3. But we've given you 5 so you have more things to work through. And then begin to work through them first by determining what you both, this is key, what you both need to do differently to have a better relationship. If you're not sure where to start, or maybe your relationship has got to the point where it's very difficult for 2 of you to talk alone, then ask a counselor to help you work through these areas. And there's some who may have done this before, but are still struggling to create lasting change. Yes, you also need to work with a counselor, maybe a therapist, if you have them where you live. But finally, remember this. There is no problem that is too hard for God. It is the Lord Jesus who said, as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 19 and verse 26. It's one of our favorite verses, so if you've listened to us before, you've heard it. And we're going to read this, she'll read from the New King James. I would like to hear from I think it's the New Living. I have it from the New Living, but let's hear what my bride of 41 years has to say.
Matthew chapter 19, verse 26. But Jesus looked at them and said to them, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible.
The New Living Translation of the Bible puts it this way. Humanly speaking, it is impossible, but with God, everything is possible. Everything, including your relationship, can get better. Why don't you also ask God to help you? Maybe you say, you don't know how I've prayed and fasted. Is anything too hard for the Lord? Or maybe you're already giving up. Or you've tried for so long you want to give up. I'd say, don't give up. It's the one who gets to the end of the race who can say, I have truly repented. We're not at the end yet. So there's good. Thank you for listening to us, and we trust you've gleaned some ideas to improve your own relationship as we did while we were preparing for this. Thank you so much, and we now hand over to Dr. Jacob Sabi to take us through our question and answer time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Richie. Indeed, it was a very powerful presentation. So we have questions coming in already, but before we start reading the questions, I will ask that if you are on the conference line and you want to ask a question, you are able to do so. All you need to do is to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question, and it will be answered. But otherwise, you can send your message to us through WhatsApp, country code +1, area code 571-337-9185, and we'll do that on your behalf. And if you happen to be on YouTube, you can equally put your message there and we'll read that on your behalf. And so let's begin with the questions in. The first question here is coming from Nigeria, and it says, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Scrap. My question to you, one second here, I want to get that right. So my question to you here is that don't you also realize that sometimes the barriers to our happiness in relationship stems from our previous relationships? If we have very bad experiences in our previous relationships, how do we trust the present when the past has hurt so much? Thank you.
Yes, we already said it that past relationships can be part of a barrier. They experience bad experiences from past relationships. That is why, if you are getting married again, that is why you need to go through counseling so that you learn, and then you have to get rid of all the bitterness and everything that happened. First of all, finding out why it happened and find out how you can work together so those things don't happen again. But we need to realize is that this person is not your ex. If your ex-wife did something, don't just begin to think that this one, all women are like that, they'll do the same thing. If your ex-husband did something that really, really hurts you, it doesn't mean this person's husband is going to do the same thing. That is a mistake we make. So we are treating this present one we have as if they are the former one, the ex. That is the problem. Talk about issues. You can even let the person know these are the things I experienced and this is how it hurt me or how it affected me. Then you can work together. But stop thinking that the present wife, because she's a woman, is going to be the same. Stop thinking that the present husband, because he's a man, he will do the same thing. Then why are you marrying again? Of course, you want a better relationship. That's why you are getting married to another person. Then you also bring the change. Be a better person. Don't put it on the other person alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Clark, for that response. Another question here, and this is coming from Sierra Leone. And he said, in what ways can a lack of emotional and physical intimacy contribute to feeling of disconnection or dissatisfaction in a relationship?
Again, please.
Sure.
I'll read it again.
So, in what ways can a lack of emotional or physical intimacy contribute to feelings of disconnection or dissatisfaction in a relationship?
Of course, if there's no intimacy, the emotional or physical, you are disconnected. So that is why there is a disconnection. Then you need to talk about it. Then the first thing we said applies that you don't avoid the issue. You talk about it. Talk with your husband, talk with your wife about it. If you feel that there is a distance, there is, you don't feel emotionally connected, you don't feel connected physically, you have to talk about it. And if your partner is not understanding, first of all, you talk with him or her, just the two of you. If the person doesn't understand, then take it to someone else. That is why you need the help of counselors. You can even first talk to somebody that you both respect, that can talk with you and help you. Otherwise, you seek the help of a counselor so that maybe your partner is not understanding what you are saying. So that is why the counselor comes in, and then she will help both of you. So yes, that brings the distance. Yes, if you don't feel emotionally connected, it is serious. If you don't feel physically connected, there's no intimacy. It is serious. So talk to somebody to help you.
So the emphasis here is being placed not on the intimacy, but the reasons for which the intimacy is not happening. Because what the mistake we have known couples to make is, oh, okay, so if we begin to be physically intimate, then it means the relationship is fixed. No. That becomes just a physical aspect. Remember, we talked about emotional baggage also. It can even get worse for one or sometimes both partners if they use that to cement the relationship. No, it doesn't. It doesn't help, really heal or strengthen the relationship. The relationship has to go well for physical intimacy to be a better or to help the connection become better. It's not the other way around. It isn't. Otherwise, prostitutes should be very connected to all the people they're sleeping with. And they are often the least connected. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Uncle Richard and to Vivian. So there's a follow-up on that question before I go to the others. So the follow-up question says that can there be emotional connection in the relationship and not physical connection? And can there also be a physical attraction and no emotional connection and the relationship still remain intact?
These are theoretical things that you're talking about. I mean, an attraction between two people, and when you're beginning to talk about romantic attraction, there are emotions involved. We are not robots. When you see somebody you like, you get happy. That's an emotion. When you see somebody who annoys you, you get annoyed. That's an emotion. So, we want the positive ones in the relationship, not negative ones. But trying to replace one with the other or saying, oh, can there be physical without emotional? Can there be emotional without physical? You're beginning to talk theoretically.
They go together. They go together. If there is physical intimacy without any emotions, you are just like prostitutes. You are just doing something. Even prostitutes are better than you because they get paid. So you're just doing something. There can't be physical intimacy without any emotions. And if there are no emotions, there won't be any physical intimacy. It won't go well. So they have to go together. So you have to work at it. If the physical intimacy is not there, there is a problem. That's why you have to find out why there is a problem. If the emotions are not there, there is a problem. So you have to find out. Whoever is not feeling emotionally connected has to speak up. Talk about it. Because the other person may not be feeling so. They don't think there's any problem. But if you feel there is a problem, bring it up and talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So this question is coming from the US, and it says, how can differences in communication styles, such as passive aggressive tendencies, hinder the effective relationship? I'm asking these questions because in the submission, Mr. Crab had mentioned that people are raised differently based on the environment, and sometimes we pick up attitudes and characters unknowingly. So the reason for my question as to how can differences in communication affect relationship, it's something that I am personally experiencing. I have had challenges effectively communicating with my spouse and we seem not to be heading anywhere. It looks as if we have, let me see, it looks as if we have different views on everything, yet we married for 25 years. What do you think? That's a lot of questions.
You see, yes, differences in our upbringing, yes, our upbringing as and we know things in certain ways, but when we get married, then we are both coming together to learn and know how to live with each other. Everybody has had something good and something bad in where or however they were raised. The reason why you can go for 25 years and you are still not getting along, first of all, is pride in both of you. You think that your ways are better than the other person, so you are sticking to your ways. And your partner is also sticking to their ways because they think theirs is better. That's why you're having problems. When you begin to learn and realize that, not all I know is good. There is some bad. Not all my partner also knows is bad. There is some good. So let's come together. What are the things that my partner does? If it's a woman, what are the things that my wife does that I don't like? And what are the things that I do that she doesn't like? You talk about it. What are the things that my husband does that I don't like? How does he talk? The way he talks, do I like it? The way I talk, does he like it? When we begin to talk that way, don't address the other person things. I don't like what you do. How about me? Do you like what I do? Do you like how I talk? When we come together to learn from each other and are prepared to let some of the bad things in life and pick up good things, we want to live together and we want to be happy. You want your partner. So we pick together. If we take out, we will humble ourselves and we will learn from each other and we will enjoy our life. Believe me, if you have lived for a long time and you are still not getting along, you are not happy, it is pride. You are not ready to learn and practice what you are learning. If you practice it, if you learn, open up yourself, learn, take away the pride, begin to practice what you are learning, you will be happy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So another question here, and this is from, I think it's Zimbabwe. It didn't come with Zim, so probably Zimbabwe. But it says that Mr. Clark talked about emotional intelligence and it's important in relationship. I know emotional intelligence has recently become the thing that everybody talks about. My question to you is that do we ought to know our partner's emotional level before we get married, or we get to know along the line whilst we are married? Thank you.
The things we can learn before marriage, the things we find out in marriage. This is not an either or, because we're getting to know each other better, or we should be getting to know each other better. We don't focus so much on emotional intelligence as a concept. We like to focus on being able to relate to the person in a way that's meaningful to them. So we don't like using all these wonderful big words. The question to ask is, am I loving my wife the way she would like to be loved? Am I loving my husband in a way he would like to be loved? Or in a way that makes him feel loved? In a way that makes her feel loved? That's the question, you see. And it's easily to say, oh, I'm an emotionally intelligent person. I've taken the course. That's nonsense to your spouse if they're not feeling loved. So it's a matter of knowing and understanding the concept. It's more being able to relate to the person, you see. Am I meeting the emotional needs? Well, first of all, what are even the emotional needs? You don't get that from a book. You get that by talking to the person. And sometimes, if you ask the many, I'm sure on this program, if you were, do you know such and such emotion? What are you talking about? But if you ask them what makes you feel loved, they can tell you. Many people can't. They can do so. That's what a partnership focuses on. But there are those also, I have to say, who have been taught not to show emotion. But even for those people, they know what makes them feel loved. And if your partner says they don't know, you try a few different things that you think might make them feel loved and ask for their response. That's what we mean by review. Ask them again. So what did you think about that? Helps us within the relationship, the two people in the relationship, to get to know and understand each other better. The problem for us is, as my wife was saying earlier, we like to think what we know is best for our partner. This is what makes the woman happy. Oh, no. Each person ought to be treated as unique because that's what makes them feel special. I don't want to be lumped with all the men, the rest of the men in the world. I don't know what my other male friends actually want. I may know some of them, but I am not them. You see. So we need to focus on our partner. Remember, in our presentation, we said it's a very lazy way of approaching relationships when we make those generalizations. You know, women, you know, men, those who've had contact with us, they'll tell you, when they make such statements, we simply tell them, no, we don't know. We know ourselves. You tell us. But very clear. Women are like this, so you're treating your women like that, or you're relating to them like what you think. Some are stereotypes. Some are wildly inaccurate, can be totally wrong when applied to certain people. That is why we don't generalize. And we discourage doing that. But we say, learn from your partner. And that's why if the two of you can't seem to do it, seek the help of a counselor to help you do it. And it's a really beautiful experience when you see two partners beginning to understand, oh, so that's why that's why she. It's like the eyes are open and the love begins to grow in a completely different and yet positive way toward each other. Now, as they're beginning to bond closer because they know what makes the other person feel loved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Richard. Thank you. So this question is also from the US, and it says that what impact can differences in values, beliefs, and life goals have on the compatibility of partners in relationship?
Let me start with a Bible verse and build from there. The prophet Amos writing he was speaking to the Israelites of the time. It's very relevant for us even today. He asked a question in Amos chapter 3, verse 3. It says, do two walk together except they agree? Certain Bible versions is a question. Some versions it's a statement. Two do not walk together except they agree. It is really important. It's fundamental. It's basic to a healthy relationship that the two people have some commonality. Not in everything, but on what each of them considers the key issues in life. Values about character, Maybe you want honesty, you want truthfulness, you want transparency, lay them out. Values about children. This is how I would want children. Children have to be disciplined, they have to be nurtured, they're not to be spoiled. Things you must have shared values before you say, I am in the relationship. And then your beliefs, you can get.
Yes, what you believe in, you talked about that. It must be solid for both of you. You cannot believe in different things and come together and think it will work. So you have to look at that. Your beliefs must be the right thing. You must both believe in the same thing, have the same faith. Then you can work together, because if you don't, there will be troubles. Maybe you think that, you get along. You believe in different things, but we get along. You will not get along. If, you think that, my husband, he doesn't go to church, but he says he believes in God in his heart. You are joking. When you come together, you have a lot of problems. You both must be believing and actively serving the Lord, knowing that, you have Christ together. It's not like, some people say, he's a Christian, but he's not like us. What do you mean he's not like us? What you believe in, does she believe in it? Does he believe in it? What are the things they do? Know them and know that you are in this thing together. You must have the same faith and do the things together. That is one of the things that will help you to grow as a couple together in harmony and peace. So it must be your belief. Those are the things that you have to get right before the marriage. Knowing that your values, things that you believe in, how you think things should go. You talk about those things before you even get married. Those are not the surprises in the marriage, because they are laid down things that you should know before you get married. I hope we've answered your question.
I hope so too. Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Crab, on that. Another question here, and it says, in what ways can trust issues or past experiences of betrayal impact one ability to form a new relationship?
We talked about this. This is part of the emotional baggage issue, because trust, you need a base, I would say, some level of trust before you can be in a relationship. All those things you've mentioned, and this is, again, it has to do with part of your values. What's important to you? And this is why you don't get into the relationship before you start talking about these things. You talk about them as part of your deciding, should I be in a relationship with this person? You see. So, yes, as the person, those are some of the important conversations to talk about. Not, always, I like your hair, I like how you look, I like your car, that kind. There are serious issues in life, because you're thinking of a life together, the possibility, not immediately married, but you get into a relationship with somebody, you're going to be spending time with them. Do they respect your time? Because that borders on trust. If they say they'll be there at 6:30 and they roll up at 7:30, and you should be grateful they have come, instead of them apologizing they're late, there's a huge question mark. Things like that. So we ought to work through all these things rather than expecting that they will fix themselves. So you've mentioned them, you're asking in what way they can impact. As far as the person's lives are concerned, all these things play. So they have a huge impact. You just don't say, I don't trust the person, or the person doesn't trust me, and so the relationship is over. The question to ask is why. Don't just walk away. You need to understand, why doesn't he trust me? Why doesn't she trust me? Then you learn and you can do differently. Because you want to win the person's trust. They say, oh, she doesn't trust me, he doesn't trust me, I'm out. So when are you going to learn trust? If this person has a problem with you trusting, or trusting you, and you're walking away from it, does that mean, okay, the next person, you're going to look for somebody who say they trust you? You have to give people a reason to trust you, for example. And trust is not only, I'm not cheating on you. Trust is when you say, I will do this, and 3 days later, you haven't done it. Even though you promised to do on Friday, it's Sunday today. Why could the person trust that you are going to do it on Monday? You have to prove that you will do it on Monday. Then they can say, okay, now, well, I trust his word small. I trust his word small. As somebody said, the jury is still out. I'm giving my husband a little more time before I'll say I completely trust him. Because he's given his word and he's broken his own word several times. On, I will fix this around the house, or I will do this, oh, I will get this, I will do that. And it doesn't happen. And when the wife raises it, he is annoyed. I said I'll do it. Why are you harassing me? Why are you nagging me? Okay, so what's the conclusion? You cannot be trusted. Why is she the problem? And if it happens the other way, why does the man then become a problem? If the woman is the one who has given her word and yet she hasn't lived up to it. So I've just focused on the trust just to give you an idea. You can apply the same principle to the other aspects. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Uncle Richard. The other question says, how can fear of vulnerability or intimacy prevent people from forming deeper connection?
Well, that happens because we are afraid the real person will be known. You see, we want to be known a certain way, and we want to keep it that way. But then my partner doesn't know me fully. And is that enough? And it can be, there are people who say, well, if he knew everything about me, he might not want me. Okay, so you keep quiet. What did we say? Not bringing up the issues, covering up issues. Do you think that if the person found out later in the relationship they're going to be pleased? Do you see how that can undermine trust? Even after marriage? We might think we're being smart, but that's why we also say you don't just go telling everybody your life story when you meet them. This is why information like that, especially things that are very dear to you, you don't want, and very deeply personal, you don't just release to anybody who says, I love you, or I want to marry you. Sometimes you need to take time and let the person win your trust. Then you can say, okay, we're going to do it. Now, I'm going to release a little bit. That's how we do it. And that's what I think you should think about. And then when you can feel more trusting of the person, then you can release a little more. I said a little more. And see how they handle it. Some people don't because the information they share is then used against them. Oh, this is why your siblings also are treating you that way. Or this is why your mom is, or this is why your father says this. That doesn't help. Because next time, you think I'm going to tell you something else that is dear to me? No, you won't. So let's be careful what we do about these things. They go deep and they hurt. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Scott, for that. So there's another question here, and the question is, I think it's a follow up to what you just responded to. The question is, now, if you decided to release a bit of your real self to the individual, and the individual is unable to handle it well, do you keep the rest to yourself, or you continue to share?
What do you think yourself? I mean, come on. You've told the you've told the person 10%, 20%. They didn't handle it well. You're going to release the 80% on them. What do you expect will happen? You expect they're going to say, "Oh, this is great. I'm so happy you told me all this." Come on.
But probably I think the question the individual is trying to ask is where we talked about sharing everything and knowing everything. And so when will be the appropriate time to determine because of the vulnerability that the individual raised in the first place?
Yes, you said okay. So if you share the first, let's say part one of four, and doesn't handle it well, you have to find out why they can't handle it well or they didn't. You don't just straight away say, okay, I'm not talking again. But find out what's the issue, and let them also know that then it might be difficult for you to share things with them. You see. So it's not a matter of, that's why we said, don't go telling people your life history, just like that. No. You see, it's really important that we guard ourselves because especially my unmarried friends, listen to me. If you're going to do this and you're going to be spread, as we say, you're giving all this information about yourself to people, well, guess what's going to happen? In these days of social media, can you control where this is going? Especially if the person is not handling it well. You see, this is important for us to understand that the things we're doing are life-changing things, And for those of us on the receiving end, we also ought to be careful we do not destroy or miss or abuse the trust that others are placing in us. When somebody opens their heart to us, we have the responsibility of guarding that trust. We do not abuse it, especially by using that information against them when we are unhappy about something. That undermines relationships, and it's a sure way of your relationship not going well or becoming a barrier in the relationship. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Richard. Another question from the US, and it says, what are your thoughts on ending a friendship with someone of the opposite sex if your partner has an issue with that person?
Okay, so let me cut to the chase. This is very common with people and their exes. You have to go into the archives of the Inspired podcast. We did a whole program. Why? Why do they have a problem? Is it just that you're talking to them, or is it the level of information you're sharing? Is it the type of relationship you had with them before? And there's a whole host of issues. We're not fans of don't talk, do what you want. No. With every person, you have to deal on an individual basis. Why is your current partner saying so? Why are they saying so? Is it just a commandment, thou shalt not? You have to find out why. Maybe they've been burned before by an ex. They don't want that to happen to them. You know, remember what we said about emotional baggage? Or maybe the type of relationship you have with that ex makes them feel uncomfortable. And we have to be sensitive to that. We don't say, oh, we're just friends. Just friends. Yeah, remove the just and it becomes friends. And then remove the S from friends. It becomes friend. Yeah, that becomes special. So anything can happen from just friends. It can become friend more than any other person. And you've already been close to them. So we also, if we find ourselves in that position, we should understand. But we strongly discourage simply telling a partner, don't talk to your ex. And it's a commandment the person should follow. Well, where does it stop? What if you who make that commandment, you are also told, don't do such and such? Would you? So that's why we say find out why they don't want, and think through why you don't want the person to have anything to do with the ex. For example, I've just used this particular one because it's a key one. Maybe that's what the person wanted to ask and they were sketching the issue. But this becomes it's a major issue people face, you know, because yes, people have said we're just friends, and then, you know, the current partner, I'm just using current partner to mean, you know, the person they are with now, and sometimes it can be the spouse they're with now, finds that they are in contact with the person, and sometimes sharing intimate details of their marriage with that person. Sometimes the relation, something doesn't go well. They're talking to the person, oh, I find it very easy to talk to this person. Hello? You can't talk to me about the problems we're having, and you're talking to somebody else? We got a bigger problem. And that somebody else is your ex, whom you left for me? Oh boy, that makes it even worse. So, you know, we have to be wise too about these things. There are certainly so many people in the world whose friendship we can cultivate rather than an ex who can create problems for our current partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is also from the US, and it says in your submission, Mr. Crab, you talked about emotions, but I understood it to be more of a temperament. So I want to ask my question this way. Now, when you are in relationship and you realize that both of you are of the same temperament, let's say, for instance, I am a choleric, otherwise known as the temperamented person, and my spouse is also the same. And so the household is competitive. When I am working a job, a six-figure job, my wife want to work six-figure job. If I want to stay home, she want to stay home. So there is always competition between us. We realize that in spite of the competitive nature of our relationship, we still have a very good marriage without any conflict or whatsoever. How do you resolve such challenges, especially for the younger ones who are getting into marriage?
What challenge? You said you're having a great marriage.
In fact, when I read it, that was the same thought I had. That what challenge? Because the person ended by saying it's having a good marriage. But I think for the sake of, I don't know if maybe it's the way they put their question, but I believe that if you are in a relationship which it's very competitive, absolutely there will be a challenge. That's why he's asking the question.
Well, he hasn't brought up the challenge.
Yeah.
He says they're having a good relationship. They're
Maybe if you can
enjoying
let us know
their relationship.
what is the challenge. Is it that they fight a lot and yet they are achieving a lot? You know, then we can talk about that. Emotions the point about emotions was not relating to temperament. We're talking about real emotions of people. Happy, sad, angry. It wasn't. I wasn't talking about temperament. You know, so specifically how we let people feel. But you know, my wife is the expert on temperament. So we're talking. If the two talking about if two people, maybe you should talk about if two people have the same temperament, what could happen?
Anything, anybody can get along. Ideally, opposite temperaments work better. But if the two of you have the same temperament, you can also work with it. Chances are that for everybody, you have a primary temperament and a secondary temperament. Chances are that your secondary temperaments are different. So you can operate on that. But you have to know each other and know how it is working. If something is not going right for you, then you have to think of how can we work together to get a better result. But from what you are saying, from what the statement is saying, I don't think they have a problem. Unless he sees a problem, then he or she can bring it up, and we can then talk about it. Otherwise, if you say you have a great relationship, well, then continue to have a great relationship. And then bring up the issue, and then we can talk about it.
And we sincerely hope that the one who wrote the question isn't or didn't just complete the whole, question by saying we're having a great relationship, falling afoul of our number one point, which was covering up issues. We hope they are not covering up issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So another question. Kemi said, "Well, thank you for this show. I think 3 or 4 years ago, there was a show on Be Inspired, and Mr. Crab had once mentioned that the very things that attract us into a relationship, once we get married and we settle, that same thing becomes an hindrance in the relationship. I am telling you, as I write, that I am an epitome of that situation that Mr. Crab described 4 years ago. My question to you now is that how can I appreciate the fact that my husband have his own life to lead and I have mine? Even though we are married together, we still must some way somehow have independent life. Mr. Clark, if you don't mind, I'll paraphrase because I think the way the person wrote, I think what the person is trying to say is that, well, it feels like she controls the husband because he doesn't think that the husband should just be going and she just stays at home and stuff like that. I don't know if the writing didn't come out properly, but I don't know if you understood the question in some form.
If she thinks she controls the husband.
Yes, it appears that because what she's trying to say is that 4 years ago you had mentioned in the show that the things that attract you into relationship when you get married, that same thing becomes a problem. So it looks like before they got married, the things that attracted her into the relationship was the fact that the husband is like the sanguine type, the loud type. Everybody rally around them. Everybody want to hang out with him. Now that he's gotten married to, it looks like that hasn't stopped, and that technically she becomes jealous that it's all about the husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. The very thing that attracted you will become the things that actually annoy you. But that's why you have to think of this you chose guy because he's jovial, he's lovely, he's, everywhere. Everybody likes him. You also liked him. That's why you got married to him. It's not going to change. And you're controlling him and not wanting him to go anywhere, to be nice to anybody. You are just making your life miserable for yourself. You can let him be who he is. Treat him in a way that he will not be looking elsewhere for happiness, for joy, for anything. He will come because you are treating him. He can be himself, be the sanguine he is, being nice, Sanguines are the life and soul of every party. So he will continue to be. But if you are the trusting wife, the loving and caring wife, he knows that my wife is different from all these people. We can try to say something like that. Your relationship with him is deep. So you're envying and not allowing him to go out to do anything or to talk to other people. You are rather pushing him to seek ways to do it without you noticing it. When you allow him to be free, the thing is that live with him. How does he feel loved? Find out how he feels loved. You will not tell everybody how he feels loved. But if you know how he feels loved, you will know how to live with him and treat him in a way that he can be jovial and everything, who he is to everybody. But you are different. He will treat you differently. Think of it. The thing that attracted, the way that he was jovial attracted you, you have to work with it. It will still attract other people too. They like such people who make them feel good. Maybe somebody is sad, he says something to make the person laugh. They want to hear that. But your relationship with him is different. Yes, he does those things. And you also treat him in a nice way that he wants to be home. Yes, he might want to go out a few times, but he wants to be home more. But if you are not treating him well, then he will go out. So think about it. You know him. You know who he is. That is what attracted you to him. How will we work together? How am I treating him to make him be at home and work for us to work together? Think about it. And some people, when the person is maybe laid back, so if you are the rowdy type, very loud and everything, you find a man who you think, as some people say, is cool, calm, and collected. He doesn't talk much. The real thing is that you do all the talking and he doesn't say anything, so you think he agrees with you. He does everything. Now you get married and the same thing you are saying, now you are so boring. He was boring before. But you were thinking so full of yourself that you did not see that. You needed to work with him so that the two of you will understand each other. Whatever you are, that is who you are. Whatever your partner is, that's who they are. You have to learn to work with each other. That is the key. Learn to work with each other. Yes, opposites attract, but it doesn't mean that you just go on your line, just do what you want and not think of your partner. Think of your partner. How can we work together so that we'll have harmony? We'll have a real great life together. That's what you need to do. I hope we've answered your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Crab, for this great responses. I have a last question here, but let me check YouTube in case there's any question. Okay, there's none. So the last question I have here says that, thank you very much for the show today. Very educative as always. Talking about barriers in relationships. Definitely, culture has always played a role in our way of behavior. And Mr. Crab had also mentioned in the submission that we both could be living in the different country from our original place of birth. And we may be prone to the sociocultural behavior of those places that we currently live in. For instance, my spouse and I are both from Nigeria, but living in America, my wife has suddenly become an Americanized. Now, when I even ask for food, she asks me to pass through McDonald's to get some food. I love her, and so I just do it. We've had many conversations around it, and she tells me, well, if you want me to get you food, then let me stop working and be at home and be a housewife. Mr. Mrs. Crab, what advice will you give me so that I will not lose my mind at some point? Thank you.
Hmm. That is why you need to, well, you've talked with your wife and she's not understanding. You need the help of a counselor to talk with both of you so that they will understand. If she says that to cook for you, she has to stop work, that's extreme. There are many women who are working and they cook also. The thing is that for both of you to do it, that she will not be the only one who is cooking all the time, but do it together. What kinds of food do you like? What kinds of foods does she like? How does she do it? What can you do to help? You have to think of all those things. You can also tell her that, McDonald's every day, that's not healthy for us. We need to eat healthy sometimes. And sometimes healthy food is not even difficult to prepare. So you can talk to her. You can, if you have already talked to her and she's not understanding it, then you need the help of a counselor so that they can talk with both of you and you will understand, because you need to understand. Don't just say you go crazy. Why will you go crazy? What are the things you don't like? That's what you have to bring up to her and talk with her. And why is she also saying that then she has to stop work before she can cook for you? Because it's not adding up so much. The fact that you are working doesn't mean you cannot cook. And if you are cooking, it doesn't mean you can't work. So you need the help of a third person, a counselor, so they can help you. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much. And so, folks, except there is anyone who want to ask a question directly, otherwise I will give it back to Mr. and Mrs. Clark for wrap up.
Thank you, Dr. Jacob Sabe. Today we've been discussing 5 barriers to better relationships. And we sought to differentiate the differences between the different issues we face in marriage with what are real barriers. We came up with these 5 barriers, covering up issues, bad information, not applying or doing what can improve the relationship, emotional baggage, and spiritual warfare. 5 barriers that we need to overcome to give us better relationships. And note we said better relationships. So, if your relationship is good, it can become better. And if it's better than it was this time last year or when you began, it can still head towards the best. We encourage everyone, let's work and work together in our relationships, not against each other, but together, with and for each other. We will be the biggest, greatest beneficiaries, and we will enjoy the relationship rather than endure. We hope this will be your portion. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll be with you third Wednesday in the month of May. Bye for now. Thank you again to Dr. Jacob, team at Be Inspired Podcast. We're grateful for all that you do to get our voices around the world. On behalf of Vivian and myself, bye for now.
Thank you, and God bless all of you. Take care. Bye for now.
Goodbye.